Now that we have your emotions conquered and you're cool, calm, and collected, let's look at 5 common nonverbal mistakes that lots of people make. First, facial expressions that look like a frown. We talked earlier about the importance of facial expression in successful communication, but this common mistake is about your face while you're listening. Some of us are great listeners, and we take it all in, consider what we hear, and are truly engaged in the conversation. But our faces don't seem to know it. While you are concentrating, your eyebrows have crunched and your mouth got tight and the corners are turning down. Now, you look angry or disappointed or otherwise unhappy with this conversation. Yet it's really just your I'm concentrating look. Remember that the speaker is looking for clues to your reaction in your nonverbal messages. So keep that open countenance, even paste on a Mona Lisa smile, an occasional nod to encourage the other person, and let her know you are engaged. Second, fidgety movements or utterances. Watch your nervous twitches. Not that you are nervous, you may not be, but your bouncing knee, your drumming fingers, that clicking pen, and your rapid-fire is pretty darn unsettling. Sometimes it's the environment that's uncomfortable, not the conversation. Change locations and you might change the other person's comfort level, as well as reduce the fidgets. And watch how your energy shows itself. It might be sending some unintended nonverbal signals. Third, space. Didn't Seinfeld do a whole show on close talkers? People who stand so close when talking to you that at least for me, I stop listening and I wonder if I need a breath mint. Watch your space needs, and especially the space needs of the other parties in the conversation. The goal is for both of you to be comfortable with the space. Some years ago, a consulting client of mine frequently included me in meetings with his major vendors from around the world. When vendors from the Far East joined us, I was very aware of the smaller space that culture enjoyed. We stood quite close to one another in conversation. I had to get used to that sense of being crowded. So be aware of space, and if yours and his are very, very different, I suggest you meet at a table. This brings me to the 4th area of common nonverbal mistakes: not recognizing cultural differences. In general, Americans are louder, gesture more broadly, stand taller and more squarely than any other culture on earth. So when communicating with someone from another culture, toning everything down is probably a good bet. But be aware of other differences and show respect by following them. In many closed Native American cultures, it's considered rude to make direct eye contact with someone you don't know well. In some Middle Eastern cultures, women are not expected to speak in the presence of men. In many Latin American cultures, a woman's superior giving even a small piece of advice to a man in front of others is considered rude. That needs to be a private conversation. So know the differences and adjust accordingly. Our 5th common nonverbal mistake is touching. What's appropriate and what isn't? What's too much or too little? As a matter of law, it is generally acceptable to touch briefly and move away in the area from wrist to elbow. Yes, really, that's written into the law. But you always want to be aware of the culture of the organization and then of the individuals as well. I've worked places where hugging was second nature. People warmly hugged a greeting instead of extending a handshake. Nothing uncomfortable about it. In fact, after I got over the surprise, it was kind of nice. Other places, a fast handshake was the closest anyone got to touching. So it depends on the industry, the part of the country, the culture of the organization, the culture of the work team, and, most of all, the comfort level of the individual. And by individual, I mean the other guy, not you. Breaking your bad communication habit is like working on any habit. It takes a little time to make changes, but mostly those changes will stick if you make the effort. Sure, you'll want to do a little self-check every once in a while, but the initial effort should show real results pretty quickly. One of the easiest ways to break a bad habit is to replace it with a good one. Here are a few to get you started. First is something we touched on earlier, listening well, especially to what's not being said. Think like a detective. What information can you uncover from not just the words, but from what's missing? Listen hard and listen well. You'll actually hear more and more. Second, carefully craft your content. I took a class years ago on communication and was taught to be clear. Frankly, I think that's the wrong focus. If I'm paying attention to being clear, I'm focused on what I'm saying. Instead, I should focus on what you are hearing. I need to focus on being understood. Third, stay present. We live such busy lives, multitasking seems the only way to survive, but it is a conversation killer. This nonverbal mistake makes the other person repeat information, struggle to find ways to capture your attention. Practice being fully aware of everything in the moment. The words, the body language and tone, the temperature of the air, ambient noise, your posture, signals you might be sending. Stay present. It's a tough goal for many of us, but if you do it well, your communication successes will soar. Fourth, focus on results. Don't let the details of the other person's nonverbal habits or the quality of her speaking style or his work history or anything else distract you from the goal. What do you want to happen after this conversation or email is over? It's those results that count. Keep your focus on that. Finally, put the relationship first. You can win every argument if you're a clever and competent communicator, but you will stand alone. We work in teams. We get our work done when we connect smoothly and efficiently with others. We are not alone. When you put more value in your request or message or task or meeting than in the people with whom you connect, well, that has failure written all over it. We are by nature a species of clans, of tribes, of families, of teams. Remember that you may want to strangle this person right now during this strange and disastrous conversation, but this is someone with whom you will be working and interacting for a while, so keep the relationship first. If I can give you a final idea to help you be an even more successful communicator, it would be this. Make time to practice what you intend to say before you say it. Duck into the nearest restroom, for example, before you go ask your boss a question. Ask that question out loud. Look in the mirror and notice how confident and relaxed you appear. Now, anticipate what he might say in response. Identify 3 possibilities. What's the worst he might say? What's the best he might say? And what's the most likely he might say? All right, you're not done. Answer each of those out loud, too. Practice again. Anticipate the next step in the conversation. Practice again. Finally, figure out the last thing you want to say. This is important. People remember what we say last. So practice that out loud too. Now you're ready. Really ready. So get in there and communicate with all the credibility you deserve.